Arnold, how'd it go? You find out anything?
Nah, all the teachers I talked to said it was
Too complicated to explain. That's exactly what Principal Warts told me when I tried to talk to him.
What could be so complicated about it?
It must be some huge problem. Well, we tried. Want to go play catch?
No, Gerald. Our summer vacation's at stake. We have to figure it out.
If you'd like to commission a Knickknack sample platter, instructions in the description below. In 1995, the Progressive Conservative Party, under the leadership of Mike Harris, won the majority of seats in the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Harris had campaigned under Common Sense Revolution, an agenda to cut back on the provincial deficit primarily by cutting social assistance programs, laying off several hundred nurses, shutting down urban infrastructure projects, and then schools entered the crosshairs. That year, the newly appointed Minister of Education and Training, John Snoblin, was caught on tape discussing how he aimed to invent a crisis to whip up public support in overhauling the Ontario education system. And so began a years-long struggle between Harris's government and educators. In September of 1997, Bill 160, the Education Quality Improvement Act, was introduced. A bill that would transfer the power of local school boards to the government, allowing them to determine school funding, class sizes, teacher prep time, as well as allowing non-certified teachers to teach and implementing standardized testing. In response, on October 27, 1997, over 126,000 teachers, principals, and school staff held a province-wide walkout and strike, the largest teachers' strike in North America at that time. I wish I could say the teachers were victorious, but the unions would back down after just 2 weeks, the strike ending on November 10th with few of their goals accomplished. Bill 160 would pass pretty much without any changes. As provincial leaders, we did everything right leading up to the protest and put incredible effort into coordinating every aspect of it. But we failed to put any effort into an exit strategy, and that was our greatest failure. I have always regretted that we were not able to agree on a way to declare a moral victory and all go back into our schools together. We had accomplished so much, and it was terrible to see it all end in such a fractious manner. We had let the teachers down. 2 weeks after the Ontario teachers' strike, the Nickelodeon show Hey Arnold would feature its own. Tour de Pond/Teachers Strike originally aired on November 24, 1997, and was the 18th episode of Hey Arnold's second season, the 28th episode overall. Written by Rachel Lippman and Joseph Purdy, Teachers Strike sees Principal Warts cracking down on what he believes to be egregious spending. To tighten up the budget, students are sharing desks and books, and conditions are becoming unbearable for Ms. Slovak and the rest of the teaching staff.
In order to avoid further budget slippage, all teachers will be rationed one single piece of chalk per week. You must sign out and return your chalk to the office. I'll be coming by each classroom to measure chalk dust output. Thank you, that is all.
And so the teachers strike, taking to the streets with picket signs. Warts can't keep running the school by himself, and so the students are getting time off for however long the strike runs. This seems great at first, but then the teachers start popping up in places the kids don't usually see them, and it's very awkward.
You work here now?
Temporarily, Arnold. I don't get paid during the teacher's strike, so here I am. It's not teaching, but I do get to play air hockey for half price.
And then the kids all learn that this time off is going to cut into their summer vacation, and the kids aren't going to have that. So they try to help with negotiations, Arnold and Gerald getting one of the local coffee shops to donate free coffee to the teacher's break room, which is nice, but hardly covers their major grievances. So the kids forcefully enter the school and resume their education themselves, sitting and studying while the adults bicker. Warts and Slovak agree to find a middle ground, and they get really horny about it for some reason.
Is the strike over?
It's looking good, kid. Why don't we work out the details in the teacher's lounge?
Over coffee?
Sure. It's on me this time.
When approaching a large, politically laden topic such as the failures of funding American education and union action within a show for and about children, there are a couple of different approaches you could take. You could tell the story from the perspective of its young characters and how they would be likely to interpret these events. What's important to the story isn't the larger issues so much as the younger, incomplete understanding of these issues from the show's main characters. Rugrats is the perfect example of this. Rugrats isn't about babies learning about the real world, it's about how babies perceive that real world. You can do that, or you can make an earnest attempt at presenting the topics. Maybe simplified for the younger audience, but making a genuine effort to educate and enlighten both them and the characters. It's not uncommon for kids' shows to have these special episodes on topics like racism, sexism, drug abuse, environmentalism, and while many of them can come across as heavy-handed and sometimes quite misguided, they're nonetheless an earnest attempt to engaging young people in these political topics. If any show was going to do the latter, it would be Hey Arnold, a cartoon that was very often about empathy and compassion and understanding the complicated lives of the people around you. We previously touched on Arnold's Christmas, which presented a very direct look at the aftermath of the Vietnam War, how it broke up families and the displacement involved in the American immigration system, all while keeping it on a very human level. Hey Arnold definitely has the capacity for touching on political topics in ways that can be enlightening and interesting. But for whatever reason, they just don't do that here in Teacher Strike. You'd expect Arnold or one of the other young characters first being annoyed by the strike, but then learning how much work the teachers put into giving them their best education they can, and the system at large is pushing them down. And then you get the kids helping the cause in some way. The show's certainly capable of being empathetic towards teachers having a hard time. Season 2 was when Mr. Simmons was introduced. But instead, the kids are only concerned with how the strike affects them and their summer break. It doesn't go beyond how it inconveniences them.
Wasting our summer vacation with their stupid strike? This is getting serious.
We've got the teachers with their stupid problems, Principal Warts and his stupid problems. No one cares about us.
We're victims of the system, just kicked around like a mangy old dog in a back alley mud puddle.
And that's okay as a starting point, but none of them ever really expand their understanding of the situation beyond that. This is sadly not an uncommon tactic in presenting strikes in media, or even in real life. A lot of powerful people would like you to find union actions annoying and inconvenient. Oh, the writer's strike is gonna ruin television. Remember what happened to Heroes? You wouldn't want that to happen to Euphoria. Go on Twitter and tell those TV writers off. The teacher strike is resolved not with victory for the teachers, or even with the teachers defeated and the kids learning a hard lesson that the world isn't fair, but with the students complaining about how this sucks for them. And that's ultimately a very weak, non-committal, ignore the politics conclusion to the topic. Now, the episode would have been finished months before the Ontario teacher strike. It clearly wasn't a commentary on that specific event. But that wasn't the first major teacher strike, and it wasn't the only major strike action around that time. Here, the teacher strike is treated simply as a story trope, trying to ignore the fact that it's actually an active political topic that people have a stance on. All art is political, in the sense that all art reflects the views of those making it, but not all art is overtly political. There's a difference between a sitcom reflecting contemporary views of gender roles in its characters, and an episode of a sitcom in which those gender roles are directly addressed in the text. Teacher Strike is an overtly political episode, and really wishes it wasn't. And it's disappointing here because I know Hey Arnold is capable of taking a stand on things, of presenting a larger issue in complex and deeply meaningful ways that are translatable to a young audience. That'll become more clear when I discuss the series as a whole, but for now, this was just a sample. Also, the other cartoon is about racing toy boats. It's the only episode of the show written by Rick Gittleson, the co-creator of Goldie and Bear. It's fine.